to see this great visual production done by my friend Jim Pelletier, who is a longtime Appalachian Trail volunteer and a member of the Berkshire chapter, whose other great interest has been in tracking and animals that he tracks. So he does have a lot of interesting sites in his presentation, and anybody who is familiar with East Lee may recognize some of the background, I suppose, of the wildlife that's in East Lee. The Lee Land Trust owns some land in East Lee, and some of you may be familiar with Donato's Trail, which is right off Route 20 in East Lee. That is before the beaver storage, which is a great monument to the area. So we
very
have
recognizable
that.
for sure.
No tracks for that beaver. No tracks for that. But the turnpike is there. Route 20 is there. And October Mountain is in one direction, and we have Beartown Mountain and Goose Pond, and the land to the other direction. And with the animals, they are moving. So what Jim is going to show us is who is moving. But you have to think of why are they moving, and where are they going, and where are they coming from. So just briefly, this is part of a project that's called the Wildlife Linkages, and it's a program with the Nature Conservancy and other organizations throughout the Northeast here. But this whole corridor or linkage starts up in Canada, goes through the Northeast, so parts of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, comes in Massachusetts in the East Lee area, and then goes down through the Hudson Highlands and going into New Jersey, and then beyond that, into Pennsylvania. So the whole point is linking. There's a lot of open spaces, conserved land, state forests, and private property, and the goal is to try to connect all these big spaces. The reason being, climate change. Animals are moving more frequently now because they're looking for new places. They're looking for shelter, to build homes, they're looking to lay eggs, someplace to have their young, they're looking to feed, they're looking for mates and new territory. So when they move, they cross roads. So that is a big problem, not only for them, but for humans. So having linkages and certain passages over roads or under roads is helping. So this is not new. Europe has been doing this. Some of the places across the United States out west have done remarkable, fantastic things. And I do have some pictures here if you want to see later. And a map in the back which shows some of those green spaces which are trying to get connected. So animals are moving, they need to move, and we need to help them. They're our neighbors, and they were here, and this would be a very compromising and pleasant situation that we can see them, and they don't get hurt, and we don't get hurt and crash with our cars. So that is that whole linkage thing that's going on, and Jim is going to tell us who is out there. Thank you,
okay, thank you, Linda. And thank you all for coming today. As Linda mentioned, I volunteer with the Mass Appalachian Trail Management Committee, which is a volunteer group that takes care of the Appalachian Trail and the Appalachian Trail lands in Mass, from the Connecticut border down at Sages Ravine all the way up to the Vermont border. And one of the things we do in that regard, aside from taking care of the trail footpath itself and the overnight sites and things like that, are keep an eye on the wild things and try to make sure we're not encroaching on them or causing them troubles or having them cause us troubles. So we try to keep the hikers on the trail, leave the rest of it for the wildlife to enjoy and use to do what they need to do. And I work with a group of people, probably around 20-25 of us. Susan, sitting in the back here, is one of our trackers. So some of what I show up here, she's going to say, oh yeah, I know about that. I'm fairly sure. But we get out. In the wintertime, we get out more frequently because there's tracks. Usually there's tracks, and there certainly are this winter. In fact, this winter there's enough snow that sometimes it's hard to tell who did it. You've got a hole in the snow that goes down 2 feet, and you don't know whose hoof or paws was at the bottom of that thing. But anyway, so we do a lot more in the winter with that, but we do it throughout the year as well, where you rely much more on what we call sign instead of tracks. So what I'm going to do with the presentation this afternoon is tell you a little bit about what we've seen out there. This is only the second time I've given a presentation like this, in that wildlife includes the plant life that's out there. And in the past we've kind of ignored that as part of this presentation, but I've put a bit of an element of that into this, so appreciate any feedback you might have from me on you could have used a little more on the animals and a little less on the plants. But. So let's get started. See if I can push the right buttons here. So one of the big things we do, well, there's 3 big things we do relative to the wildlife monitoring. The first thing is we do what we call transects, where we go off to a certain part of our lands here in the Berkshires, typically related to the trail, and we traverse through that area. And there's a map of one of our transects you see here on the left from the Beckett Mountain area a little over a year ago. And so, the dotted line is our route through the woods, and where the little black dots are, this must be a place where the fish are like to hang out. There's fish are poop there, fish are scat there. There's a couple bear nests up there. Anybody know what a bear nest is? So bears in the fall are trying to fatten up, and once all the fruits and succulents are gone, they go after the nuts. And beech nuts are very prized, very high energy for them, helps them put on fat to use to snooze away the winter with. So if you're off walking through our woods and you look at the treetops against the sky and you see the crown of a big tree with a whole mess of branches that still have leaves on it when everything else is down, very good chance you can walk up to that tree, and it's going to be a beech tree. It's going to have claw marks in the trunk, and you're going to see that this is where the bear went up into that tree, got himself or herself comfortable, grabbed some branches with nuts on it, partially busted them off, brought it to its mouth, and punch. In fact, you'll often find a good number of those branches right on the ground where the nuts are all gone. So that's what we call a bear nest, and we found some on this thing, this transect. So clearly there were a lot of deer and bear, fisher in this area, and I think we saw some porcupine, but we don't see it right off. So we do 10, 12 of these a year. You see the listed ones here from the last year or so. And pretty much covers from the Vermont border down. We still have some areas we haven't been in yet that we've yet to do a transect in, but we're getting to the point where we're going to start going to new places. Those outings, by the way, are open to anybody in the public who wants to sign up for it. You don't have to have any experience. We do have 3 trackers now who are certified by the North American Wildlife Tracking Association. And most people, including everyone in this audience, I'm sure, can see something and say, somebody did that, and get it pointed out to us so we can figure out who done it. So the second thing we do is trail cam monitoring. And you see me setting up a camera here with one of our other volunteers. We typically mount them on a tree, like you see here. And you can see where we've had these things posted up in the last year or so. The bottom 4 bullets are in that Mass Pike AT crossing area, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. There's a special study we're doing with Mass DOT. And so those cams have been up there, actually it's now almost 2 years. Another month or so they'll have been there for 2 years. So if we know enough about what wildlife is using what areas and where they're apt to be active or passing through or feeding, so we can kind of put the cameras in a spot where you'll see a lot. Yeah.
Quick question: are these online, or do they just record to a digital code, digital card, and then?
Yeah, we are not using any that are cell phone enabled.
Okay.
Some of our trackers have them and do use them, but the ones we're using are all change out. Go check the batteries every 2 to 3 weeks. Change out the SD card. Take it home, put it in your laptop, and it's like Christmas. I wonder who's going to have showed up in the last few weeks. So that's the second major way we kind of keep track of the wildlife things. And the other way we do is just reports from people. So here you see last year. Which one are you looking at?
First, I was surprised at moose in Tyringham.
Yeah.
I woke up near Tyringham, and I can't imagine seeing a moose running through there.
Right off Tyringham Main Road, 18 North, not a quarter mile into the woods. Matt, one of our volunteers, he's a runner, and he sees this big bed in the snow, moose tracks and poop all over the place.
Oh, wow.
Go figure. And we later on found more evidence of that animal hanging out in the area over the course of the winter. So we don't see moose themselves too often, but occasionally we see their tracks or scat. You see a lot of bear sightings in here. May 16th, rattlesnake hanging out on the trail up on the Jug End Ridge. That's I wouldn't say common, but happens a decent amount of time. But a lot of bear sightings, very kind of unexpected until we started actually collecting all this data. Cubs, bears. 729 Shaker campsite. Hikers are sitting there at the picnic table, and the skunk comes through. Pays no attention to them whatsoever.
Yeah.
He wanders around and works his way on through. And Goose Pond, some loons. Not too common in our area, but occasionally they're around. And there are a couple spots where we have nesting pairs of loons. So that's the third major way that we keep track of these wild things. One of the transects we did this year was a request from Mass Natural Heritage that we monitor some interesting plant in a secret spot. I can tell you where it is, but then I'd have to shoot you, so don't even ask. But yeah, it's a small knob with these mature open trees that you see, mature open understory. Lots of wildlife sign present, rare plants, and a rare tree. And who would have thunk it? But that's the rare tree. Does anybody know their trees from the bark by any chance? Yeah. Truth be told, we'd been up there several times and not noticed that tree. And one day, one of our monitors that was with us noticed the rare plant at the base of one of those two trees and was very excited about it, called me over to look at it, and I looked at it and I said, oh yeah, okay. And I said, well, what kind of a tree is that? Right? So, had to figure it out. So yeah, like I said, a lot of signs of different kinds of things going on in this area. Upper left there is a nice pile of fresh bear poop, which I'm sure if you've been out of the woods at all in our part of the world, you've seen some of that. On the lower left, anybody know what that is? That's how we knew that this rare tree was here. Is one of our trackers found the nut and picked it up and says, "What's this? She's never seen it before." Google's a wonderful thing. You go home, you look it up and say, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Oh, we're trying to guess here.
Oh, do you have a guess?
Yeah. Is it a horse chestnut?
No, it's not, but we'll come back to that. Yeah. A lot of people think it's a black walnut because it's very similar, but it's a butternut.
Oh.
And butternut is a rare tree in our area because there's a fungus that affects it and is killing them all, and there's very few of them left. And Sue found this nut, and I said, that's not a black walnut. I'm pretty sure that's a butternut. When we looked around, couldn't find it, and only a week or two later, when we went back, did we stumble across the tree. And this thing's 29-inch circumference, so that's what, a couple feet or more in diameter. It's a big tree.
I've got a butternut in my garden that Linda gave me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I have a butternut in my garden that Linda gave me.
Excellent.
Okay,
Excellent. Take good care of it. They're pretty rare. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There was a number of butternut trees on my property.
Okay.
When I moved there over 50 years ago.
There's still some
But they
streets
were
in the
bare.
Berkshires called Butternut Street, you know?
But you can see them, there's some out in the field at the tree line, but they have that black telltale
The fungus, yeah.
disease.
Yeah.
And so the squirrels trees aren't big, but they were still having nuts on them. And
Yeah.
the squirrels have been planting them here and
Yep.
there, so they keep
Yep.
coming
Yep,
up, but
they're
they
very
don't
helpful.
last long.
Yeah, yeah.
The trees don't last long.
So the bigger picture on the right, anybody know what that is?
Yeah.
That's why I can't tell you where it is. So yeah, our trail lands, we've got some really interesting places. Those lands have been protected for at least 50 years now. And so we're starting to see things go to a more natural, undisturbed state of affairs. The only thing that's disturbed through our trail lands is the path itself, and very little else. So the AT bridges over the Mass Pike. You see an aerial shot here of the Appalachian Trail. It comes down on the right-hand side of this photo, crosses the bridge over the eastbound lanes, and then does a little jog in the median, goes over the westbound lanes and does a loop and goes underneath and continues north. We were approached a couple years ago by Mass Department of Transportation who wanted to do a study of the possible replacement of these bridges with much larger bridges that would act both as a trail crossing and as a wildlife crossing, much like they have out west. So how many folks have seen pictures of or videos of those wildlife crossings? Yeah. So they're pretty impressive. They are oftentimes big bridges for the wildlife to go over, but in some cases they're big bridges for the cars to go over and the wildlife to go underneath. So it works either way depending on the situation. We engaged with the Department of Transportation folks on this. They're happy to have us participate with them. They came up with a number of alternative routes and widths of such a crossing, which you see kind of depicted here. I believe they've picked for further study one of these bigger, shorter crossings just to the west of where the current bridges are for further study and development. But before they could get to this point, like I said, we did this study to help them figure out where's the wildlife, where are they trying to cross now, are they using the current bridges, and so on. And this is kind of a picture of where we found some evidence of wildlife in the area or crossing. We found, frankly, very little evidence that anybody's using the bridges. A couple of weasels and some mice, basically. Well, and humans, a lot of humans. But not very much wildlife use of the bridges themselves. Now you'll see a conglomeration of sightings over in the area further to the west, over in here. This is where Greenwater Brook goes under the Mass Pike. And a little further downstream, it goes under Route 20. So one of the areas we studied, we studied both of those underpasses and 2 locations up where the bridges currently are. Let's see if I can figure out how to make this work. So this is the bridge where Greenwater Brook goes under Route 20. It's right near the Beaver. Okay? You wouldn't know it's there. And the stream is going from right to left, as you can see the bubbles passing through. And on the downstream side, the stream is between 20 and the Pike. And in a second here, you'll see the silhouette of that doe and her fawn working their way all the way through. And this goes on hundreds of times. And not just that direction, both ways. This is where that same stream, oh, that's pretty close to the highway. Yeah. Greenwater Brook goes under the Mass Pike, and that's one long tunnel. And you can see there's a drop off there. Whoops, who's that? Hurry up, buddy. You don't want to get too far from Mom. They do this all the time. Bears, the deer. There's a family of 4 raccoons. 2 of them go down head first. 2 of them go down butt first. I could almost put names on it. Deer, bear, mink, otter, great blue herons. So yeah, they're using the current tunnels for Greenwater Brook, but they're not using the current bridges. I'm not quite sure what that is, but it just...
Maybe they're just scared.
I'm sorry?
I said maybe they're just scared to go up there.
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
You know, how many folks here have been over those bridges before? Yeah. So you know they're fairly narrow. You've got that fencing, but there's constant traffic and it's noisy and you can see it. That bear certainly could hear that traffic, but you know you can't really see it from there.
The ones that I've seen have had this vegetation on them, so the animals feel more.
Yes, yeah, and they're much bigger. Yeah. So this is between Route 20 and the Pike, and note the date, 1/13/25. Whoop, coyote number 2. Wonder why they're together in the middle of the winter. It's mating season.
Oh, January.
And there's the Pike, as you can see. Right? So, December of last year, mid-December, we had about 4 or 6 inches of snow on the ground. I went in to where this camera is to change out the memory card. Actually, I went over the Pike bridges first, changed that memory card out of the camera there, which you'll see in a moment. Came back to where this camera is, and changed this memory card out. And I'm walking out, and there's fresh bear prints there. So I started tracking it. And this animal went up to the fence, right near where the Welcome to the Berkshires sign is on the Pike.
Yeah.
Got to the fence, and there's an easy way to get through that fence about 50 feet away. Took a look, turned around, retraced its steps, and then went off in a different direction, crossed the AT, went up over the knoll right near the dam, and then crossed Route 20 and headed up into the hills. So, yeah, so it's mating season. You're going to find those coyotes in pairs very frequently. So this is the camera. This on the south side of the Pike. The AT, once you go over those bridges southbound, very shortly after you get off the bridge, it goes steeply uphill to the left, and the ski-mobile trail continues off to the right. And this camera is placed about 100 yards up that ski-mobile trail, just off the trail. And everybody know who that is? Red or gray? It's the red. Now watch closely just before he goes off the log what this animal does. Right there. Let's see if we can do that again. Whoa, wrong thing. Ah, come on. Operator error strikes again. Right there. Do you see that? Just a little. Left my scent. I want everybody to know this is my place. Yeah. Very subtle, very quick. Bobcats do the same thing. But you can hear and see how close to the Pike these animals are. Okay, switching up a little bit. Like I say, I've started to include in our wildlife presentation some of the more interesting and rare plants that we monitor on our lands here. I think everybody can identify the yellow lady slipper. We didn't know about this plant, and we were in the area searching for a different rare plant, and the monitor said, "Hey, that's a yellow lady slipper." And so there's a population of like 30 of them up in this area. It's totally unexpected. And then the photo on the right there is, yeah. Thank you. I was hitting a flat spot there. The botanists have decided that there's two kinds of cohosh in our woods, and one of them is the early blue cohosh, where the petals are this dark blue that you see here. These aren't the petals. And guess where there's a pile of this stuff? Right where Mass DOT might want to put a bridge. So, yeah. But we have found this in several places now that we've been alerted to the fact that there's actually two different but closely related species, and one of them is thought to be rare. They don't really know yet, so we're kind of keeping our eye out for it and documenting what we find and where we find it. Anybody seen that one? Everybody knows horsetail, I think, right? That ancient plant. It's very high in silica. I think
Well, that's a horsetail.
I'm sorry?
Is it a horsetail?
Yeah. Did I say something else?
No, you said.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is a dwarf horsetail. And again, this is one of those that we stumbled across in Hinsdale, actually, on our trail lands. And there's also a couple of other rare species up there. So big tract of land in that area that hasn't been disturbed for many, many years. So, yeah. Then there's the other kind of wildlife that we're not so happy to have around here. Upper left, beech leaves. Everybody's been seeing that, I imagine. The beech leaf disease with the there's a nematode worm, tiny, tiny worm that lives between the upper and lower surfaces of those leaves and sucks the nutrients out of the leaves, and fairly quickly will kill the tree. And of course, our beech trees have been under duress for quite a number of years with the beech bark disease. But what we're being told is this is going to kill our beech trees off pretty quickly. So if you got some nice beech trees, take a good look at them and enjoy them while you can. Probably there are a few specimens out there that have some genetic variation that makes them resistant, and hopefully those will last and be able to keep the species going. And then the lower left there is the it's an ash tree, right? And this is, if you peel the bark off after the worms have done their emerald ash borer and made all those little tunnels, and that's what cut off the flow of nutrients up to that tree and killed it. So how about that bigger picture on the right? Anybody know what that one is? That's one that's hardly ever seen anymore and functionally extinct. It's called American chestnut. And notice it's in bloom. Hardly ever happens now in the wild. As I say, they're functionally extinct. The blight took them out early in the last century. We were doing some monitoring in the Tom Leonard shelter area one day, and for those of you who might have been there, there's a tent platform right on top of the cliff top there, and we're sitting down there having lunch. And one of our monitors looked out within arm's reach and said, "Hey, what's that?" And it was a young chestnut tree, an American chestnut, and it's in bloom. So we checked in with the American Chestnut Foundation, and they asked us to go back up there and collect some pollen that they could use to crossbreed with other flowering chestnuts that they have, that they're trying to develop this a blight-resistant chestnut. So yeah, there's still some of them around. If you see one of them, please let us know so we can try to collect some pollen. And on occasion, if you can get to them, the flowers can be fertilized as well, and then they'll capture the nuts. This is another one of our and notice what that second bird had, and I apologize, I couldn't keep it in focus. Everybody knows that bird? The loon, that's American loon, yeah. They come and visit us at Goose Pond and Upper Goose Pond every year. This particular sighting was up in October Mountain State Forest, and I think on 2 nights in prior years camping at the October Mountain Shelter, I've woken up in the morning to the call of loons. So there's no pond right near there, but clearly the ponds in the forest not far off got them. So we're starting to see more and more of these, and we're documenting when and where we see them and keeping the Fish and Wildlife people informed, because they're interested in how many mating pairs we have here in our Berkshires. So next is a series of some of our more interesting wildlife videos. This one's a little dark, and it's actually a patch together of several videos that I'll explain as it unfolds. Notice the white chip in the ear of that bear and the collar? This is our bear. We found this mama in her den 3 years ago. She had 3 male cubs with her, 2 of which survived. And One of the deals with Fish and Wildlife was we'll show you where this den is, but you got to share with us the tracking collar data for a year. And they agreed to do it. Yeah, so this is that animal, turns out. We checked in with them and said, hey, did you take the GPS collar off and put a radio tracking collar on her? They said, oh yeah, we did that last winter. She says, that's your bear. So this is in Tyringham. Same location. Notice the commotion in front of this doe. Boom. Who's that? Okay, here's what happened. Mom and her fawn. She's at alert. Something's going on. See, she's stamping the ground. Hear the cries?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, little one, let's get out of here. Hear the doe nickering? Backstory. The fellow whose cam caught this, he was in his backyard with his daughter, and this doe comes out of the woods with a fawn. That don't happen. And they're just hanging around at the edge of the lawn. 5 days later, he goes back up into the woods to change his memory card in his camera, brings it home, looks at the memory card and sees this video. So basically what had happened was, after this encounter, that doe took her fawn into his backyard, and he just happened to be there and see it. And she felt safer there with the humans present than in the woods with the bobcat.
Good mama.
Yeah. Something a little different. Everybody's heard of the butternut fire, I assume, if you're from the area. That's what it looks like. And it burned a big piece of East Mountain State Forest. So we've been doing some plant and wildlife monitoring in this area a little more aggressively than we have in the past to see how it changes and recovers from the fire. So nothing to report yet, but just a note that you can see there was a lot of duff underneath the surface that's been burned out, and so a lot of trees where the roots are burned and are no longer stable with what little soil might have been there. So we're going to see a lot of things change here. You can see in that lower panoramic photo the lighter tan. That's the trail footpath. The fire would skip right over that. It's just compacted enough by hikers' footsteps that the soil underneath it wouldn't, propagate the fire quite as readily as the undisturbed forest floor. And there's a picture of just what got burned. It was a big piece of ground. Much bigger than the prior fires that we've had up in Clarksburg State Forest up near the Vermont border. So what's this?
No.
You see the bee?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
This is a gentian. It happens to be a rare Andrews bottle gentian that we discovered at Upper Goose Pond. And yeah, can you believe what the bees do to get in there and get the pollen out of that, those flowers? So yeah, it's not just about mammals. Who's that? Did you catch that? Whoop. Hang on, I gotta. Here we go. Watch quick. Who said flying squirrel? Yeah. Not far from here, I had a camera set up on a big pine tree, and I went to change the memory card out one day, and there's a huge pile of fresh bear poop right in front of the camera. And I said, oh man, I'm going to get a great video of a bear pooping. So I take the memory card home, nothing. But I go back 2 weeks later to change it out again, and the poop's all gone. I'm saying, wait a minute. Scat, which is the term we use for wildlife poop, it lasts a lot longer than that. So bring the SD card home. There's these guys, flying squirrels. They're coming down at night, and all those little cherry pits, the black cherry pits that bear poop was loaded with, gone. They were harvesting what the bear brought them for dinner. Go figure. So yeah, flying squirrel. It's amazing how many of them there are around. Same spot, a little different animal. This is classic bear behavior. This is a young'un. I have hundreds of videos of this kind of behavior. They'll also get right up against the bigger tree and and you can on some of those bigger trees you can see the fur. He didn't use this tree this time, but right there on that tree has been bitten over and over again, and you can see the bite marks and some fur on it. And they'll very often do that to mark their territory. This one is not a particularly good one. It's the best one I got of this species, though, so here you go. River otters. Yeah. Big beaver pond. No beavers using it at the moment. They were there, and I'm pretty sure they were using the beaver lodge to hole up in. They're very skittish. I had gone into this pond before and approached this spot and seen them several hundred yards across this pond. It's a good-sized pond, and it's like somehow they know you're there, and boom, they disappear. They're very, very skittish. Don't really want their presence known. Oh, who's this? Looked right, looked left, crossed the road. Did you see him do that?
Not a horse.
These people had no clue what had just gone by them. No clue. Watch it again. Looks to the right, looks to the left. Does anybody know where that is? There's Upper Goose Pond, and then there's Goose Pond. There's a channel between the two. And just up the hill to the left of this view is the Upper Goose Pond cabin that we operate for hikers. Sunday morning.
I didn't think powerboats were allowed to go up to the Upper Goose.
I'm sorry?
I didn't think powerboats were allowed at Upper
They
Goose.
are. There are some limits on powerboat use of any great pond in Mass. And in the case of Upper Goose Pond, there was a long controversy about whether jet skis could legally be up there. And we got a lot of flack about that. But several years ago, DEP. I think it was DEP, yeah. The commissioner actually issued a letter. They had somebody study this whole affair, and they decided that Upper Goose Pond was, in fact, a separate great pond under the laws of the state of Massachusetts, and therefore jet skis are not allowed up there. Most of the pond, you can't go above wake speed in any event. But power boats, good-sized boats, still go up there and, anchor and enjoy themselves. So this is a couple of the Lee Land Trust parcels. Not very far from the Mass Pike Bridges that we're talking about, and we took the liberty of doing a transect in there a year ago, July. And yeah, there's what we found. It's fascinating. There's not a lot of room between Route 20, right here, the Pike here. This is where Basin Pond Brook goes underneath the Pike. And where it says Old Bones there, that's a very narrow, and it's very obvious wildlife are using that as a bridge between this area and that area. We found all kinds of tracks, some deer bones. We found a coyote scat that was also full of packaging material. This animal had obviously raided somebody's garbage, but it was a coyote scat. It is, but I don't know how to turn it off. You know how to turn it off, my dear? So yeah, it's a fairly small area, and it's tucked between those two highways, but loaded with wildlife. See where it says ground hornet's nest? That was fairly freshly done. And see where it says bear spooked? Right there? We actually came from here, spooked this bear, and said, well, we sat down to have lunch on this log, and we looked up, and there's this bear running away from us.
Is that I'm not sure where this is. Is this where Donato's Trail is? No.
Donato's Trail is
I believe it's across
right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right across the road from this parcel. This is the parcel where there's a foundation in there now, but no house built.
That's right across from Donato's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Donato's Trail is right in here. Yeah. Yeah.
This is the stuff across the road.
Right. Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
That, by the way, if you want to see hundreds of chestnut sprouts that are trying to make it up on that ridge top there, all over the place up there. Yeah. So yeah, the big picture on the left, that's from inside the tunnel where Basin Pond Brook is flowing out. And behind where I am when I took that picture, in the silty stuff alongside the stream in the tunnel, is that big bear print. And guess who made that? That animal we spooked went in the tunnel to get to the other side of the pike and get away from us. It was a fresh set of tracks. If you look closely, you can actually see there's one there. There's one right up there too. Yeah. So unfortunately, we spooked that animal, but it was kind of cool to see it. But the other thing that kind of surprised us was where the Mass Pike goes over Chestnut Street. On both sides, it's got that bouldery dirt mix underneath the highway. It's loaded with tracks. You can see they're all circled here. The various animals who've been not wanting to walk on the street, but wanting to get from one side of the pike to the other using that underpass for Chestnut Street. We'll get you there. And there's yours truly. with those 3 little cubs, whose mom we saw in that earlier video. 2 of the 3 survived. The wildlife folks told us they're all males. They said they'll fight, and only 2 of them will survive. And that's when they went back to her den the following winter to check on her. There were only 2 cubs with her, so only 2 of the 3 survived. But
how did you get to hold them like that without the mama bear coming after you?
so the deal we made with Fish and Wildlife is we'll show you where the den is, but you got to let 3 of our volunteers who discovered it go in with you, and you got to share with us the tracking data where she goes for a year. So myself and 2 of our volunteers got invited to come along, and of course we led them to the den, dart mama with a tranquilizer, dig her out of the den. The den was a crown of a white pine tree that had fallen down, and she was buried in underneath that, all covered with snow. So they dug her out, put a tarp out, and the Fish and Wildlife guy reaches in, cub number 1 gives it to me, cub number 2 gives it, to Brad, cub number 3. Yep. And so it was awful. We had to sit there and cuddle these poor things while they manhandled mom and put the ear tag in and fitted her with the collar, checked her teeth, checked her feet, weighed her, all that.
Jim,
Yeah.
isn't that the mama on the ground behind you?
Yeah, you can see a little bit of her, but it's not a good shot of her. But and then when they're all done with her, they slid the tarp over to the den entrance and moved her in, and then we had to give them up and give them back to mom. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I tell my daughter that getting to hold her son, my grandson, the first day he was born was a little better than this, but this was pretty good. Yeah. So that's the end of the presentation I have, but I'm happy to talk about any of what we've seen here or other questions you might have about what we do and things we've seen. Yeah.
I was wondering why is Mass not DPW
Mass Highways?
Mass Highway. Why are they interested in moving the bridges?
Well,
why would they want to move them?
they're interested in making an overpass that will accommodate both wildlife and humans. It's pretty clear the current bridges don't do that, and there's a lot more interest nowadays in accommodating wildlife movement across highways, as Linda pointed out.
But is there, are you tracking more wildlife in other areas? Is that
we're seeing a lot of evidence of wildlife that comes up to the pike and either goes along it or goes back. They don't go across. Now Route 20 looks to me like that bear did it, and I see plenty of evidence of other wildlife crossing Route 20. There are, of course, wildlife collisions and population losses from that. And they've collected a lot of the data from Mass Highways. They document when and where they find animals that have been either killed or injured trying to cross the pike. So they had some federal funding for this. I know they're working hard to take the next step of the process and do the design work and get the money to actually replace the bridges at some point. So. And I think their thinking is it's going to be a lot easier to put in bridges near where the current ones are and allow the current bridges to continue to be used while they build the new thing. So they would, there's several thousand people a year that through hike through there, never mind probably triple that amount that day hike it. So it gets pretty heavily used. And this year, for the first time in many years, the snowmobiles are constantly using that. That camera I had where the fox was on the log there, I've since turned that camera around and now points along that roadway, and I'm getting 200-300 videos of snowmobiles. The wildlife is gone. They are not there this winter at all, and it's very clear why. They don't want to mess with the snowmobiles.
If you're curious about different kinds of bridges and tunnels, you want to just take a look. There's, over big highways, you have this fantastic big bridge that's in Colorado. You have snow pastures, for all kinds of animals. And here's one over in New York State where they were doing under a culvert there and making a special way for the smaller animals to get through rather than going through the big tunnel. So they have a special shelf. So there's a lot of projects going on across the country because people are aware of animal accidents on the highways, and it's very stressful to see that waste. Also for the humans, and so if the animals have to move due to climate change or for whatever reasons, we want to make it safer. Safer for them and to connect to land that they could use.
And the kind of project we're talking about here is a pretty big deal, but as Linda points out, there's a lot of things that can be done much smaller scale. A lot of these forgetting the word now, where you've got a small stream going underneath the highway.
And your culverts?
They're making the culverts much bigger and designing them such that the bottom of the culvert only is a half or so of it is taken up by the stream, and the rest of it is safe passage for smaller wildlife.
You think that'd be more effective than the bridge?
Yeah. But I mean, even the underpasses we saw here, 2 of them have these big weir walls. It's fascinating. The animals are getting around those walls. I mean, even the little ones like the mink and the weasels, they're just climbing up the. It's fascinating that 1, they can do it, and 2, they have an interest in doing it. It's pretty clever.
What they've done with some of the big overpasses, which are planted to look like the woods, so it would encourage animals to use that to cross over the highway. So what they're learning too is that it seems like the young are following the parents, and they are teaching the next generation of animals, this is the way to get to point B. So they are smart, and they want to survive.
Are they crossing and coming back again, or are they moving into new territory?
Both ways.
Both ways?
They're going both ways.
Oh, so they go under and then they come back again?
Well, I'm not sure they know this animal went over on Friday and came back on Saturday next week. I don't know.
Migrating across, if they might be going to a new territory.
My understanding is there's wildlife going both ways, all the species. If you go on YouTube and look at wildlife crossings, there's some really, really interesting videos of some of these things going on out in Canada and Washington and Oregon and those areas where they put these things in. And I mean, it's just fascinating. Everybody and his brothers, mountain lions, moose, deer, elk, coyotes, wolves, they're all using them. So
But remember, some of them may be crossing to look for new territory. So they may be passing and then moving on further north or south, most likely. But New Jersey has a big project that's been going on since 2014, a green space. And if you think of New Jersey as being very busy with roads all over, there is a big green space that's connecting with the Hudson Highlands. And they have been doing a fantastic job of saving land and getting this green space in for animals to cross, particularly the bobcat that's been back.
And I apologize. Linda mentioned to me about bobcat videos, and I didn't include a bobcat video in this. I'm sorry. I have several really good ones. I'm going to have to remember that for the next time around. But
What was that the deer chased up the tree? Was that, I thought it was a bobcat.
that was, it was, yeah. But yeah.
Fisher?
No, that was a bobcat. And so I'm sorry I did have
So
one.
you
But
did have one.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I've got, where you saw the video of the deer going through the tunnel under Route 20,
Yeah.
I've got a really good one, which again I apologize for. It says bobcat comes in front of the camera walking across a log, goes over to a log that projects out maybe a quarter of the way over the stream on the left hand side, and jumps over the stream so he won't get his feet wet. You know how cats are, right?
Yeah.
And then goes into the tunnel. And so, I'm sorry, I didn't get it in this one, but
All right, we'll keep our eyes open.
yeah.
So watch your backyard.
I mean, we've talked to the fellow who lives next to the beaver there. He often walks his dog up the access way there, and he says everybody and his brother's crossing right in that area where Route 20 goes over the Mass Pike, and Greenwater Brook goes under 20. They're just constantly through that area, and we see it. We see it in the tracks. We see it in the scat. We see it in what they're eating. So they're getting around these highways, not necessarily the best way, but as best they can. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit of a tangent to this, but the wildlife that you really can't track and the one that does not go over the tunnels and bridges, the birds. I'm not sure if you spend much time, monitoring them, but my wife and I have noticed like 10 years ago, there used to be a lot more birds up here, and then it seems like it's gone down dramatically.
Yeah.
And then, just recently, this past year, we've seen a lot more birds. There's some cardinals that like the trees outside our unit, and there's some hummingbirds this summer. Do you have any thoughts about those in terms of migration or?
It's we have thought about it. We don't do like the Christmas bird census or stuff like that. We don't really have the resources for that. But what we did start doing a year ago was with these transects that we take, where we go out into a particular area to document what's there. We've started documenting. Usually the focus is on mammals.
Yeah, right.
So we've started documenting birds that we see, birds that we hear, nesting sites, things like that. So we're dabbling in it to try to gather some information. Some things like loons, we're keeping a closer eye on. We've started to find in the Tyringham Valley American bitterns that are returning. We've documented them 3 years in a row now. And we've actually heard them in, that video of the beaver pond where the otter were. There were some bitterns hanging out there last year. And so we're anxious to go back there early this year, because they're one of the earlier migrators, to see if they've come back that area. They're easily spooked. So you will more often hear them than see them. Yeah, I think the first clue that we had that there might be some in that area is I was driving down County Road to where the AT crosses that road, and there's just a little parking area there. And I parked my car, and I got out of the car, and I'm hearing this gump. It's a really weird call that they make, and they make it like at dusk and just before dawn. And it's coming from this really marshy, grassy, sedgy swamp just the other side of the road. And I says, I know you're in there. I know I'm never going to see you, but you're there. So
we also seen as beautiful as the blue herons. They seem to go into Housatonic. There's the ridge over here by Lee Bank, by Park Road. And a lot of, serendipitously, I would say probably about about every year and a half, we'll see one.
Yeah.
Just kind of, perched in the rocks, and when they take off, they're just beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. So we do see a lot of them. The thing we're hoping to see, and this is one of those things where you have to train yourself not to see what you want to see, but see what's really there. Yeah, my old brain is hitting a flat spot again. What's that big crane-like bird that migrates through Nebraska every year in hundreds of thousands? 500,000 birds. We went and visited there. Oh gosh. Sandhill cranes.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So a few years back, a lady who we know that has a house right on the north end of Cheshire Reservoir said she had one hanging out in the marshes there all summer. So as climate changes, we're starting to see some species that aren't normally around. We're kind of keeping an eye on, what do we see and where?
We had a raptor and it just picked up a squirrel and put it
Yeah.
on the.
Oh,
Yeah.
But it's really, and then you have no birds all of a sudden, because they
Yeah.
all know he's there.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for coming and your questions, and hope you enjoyed it.